And hi, everybody. And as you can see, it's the dead of winter. Everybody's wearing coats and jackets and stuff. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to introduce Philip. Should call you Philip, I don't know.
I
Oakley.
like Philip, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay,
I
Philip.
appreciate it.
So, Philip Oakley. This is one of those successes of social media, guys. We met in LinkedIn. We haven't met in real life, and yet we have developed a relationship in LinkedIn. So, Philip has been in advertising for 25 years. He doesn't look it. He began when he was 8. And then he is the founder of a company called Common Giant. And one of the things we do have in common is our love for branding, for things that define a product. And in that sense, we have found a lot of common ground in spite of the Common Giant. So, Philip, welcome to One Take. Um, let's start with the obvious one. We always start with this. By the time we get to be us, we've done, I don't know, 700,000 moments. Things happen to us
Sure.
all of the time. It's impossible to avoid. But there are certain key moments in life that basically define us as we grow up. What was yours? Share.
Uh, Marcelo, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure. We chatted. I think we've chatted for 3 hours before we actually hit record. It's nice to catch up with you. You know, I I appreciate the LinkedIn mention because I'll tie it back to something I wrote recently, which is a lot of times in these podcasts, we talk about our defining careers at agencies or at brands or these big defining moments. And I actually want people, especially now as social media attacks us and tells our young people that they should be millionaires by the time they're 20 and everyone should be a TikTok star. The jobs we had before our careers actually help define who we are. Being a busboy or a waitress or a bartender or working in retail, those things build a lot of character and help us understand how people tick. And so that is my defining moment that I now reflect on and understand. When I went to college and took a break from school, I worked in retail for about 7 years. And similar to your story at McCann, except I was at a home improvement store. I was a kid who was managing loads of people, all more senior than me. And it helped me build some empathy and grow up a little faster in some scenarios. Crazy stuff. I've had customers threaten me. I took a bomb threat, had to call the FBI, like all kinds of weird shit, that kind of like frankly toughened my skin so that by the time I got to advertising and people were nervous about a pitch, and I'm like, nervous? What are you nervous about? This is fun. People are paying us for our talent. They want to pay us to do this work. It's not like a bomb threat, right? So those are really important. But the actual defining moment was really recognizing I did not want to do this for the rest of my life, and I was in about my mid-20s, trying to figure out what my next step was going to be. And I saw this movie called What Women Want. Do you remember this rom-com
Yes.
from the late 90s or so?
Yeah.
And
Way
it was
back.
my first time. Now, mind you, before the internet, showed us everything in the world, and we walked around with supercomputers in our pockets. It's the first time I really got to see the inside of an ad agency. But beyond just the chauvinistic stuff, it's also like seeing them really try to get into the head of the customer and understand what their fears and their needs and their wants and their worries were, and then create a campaign to help them understand there's a product that could serve some of that purpose. That was my introduction to marketing and what branding and advertising could do. And so that was it. I quit retail, went and got a bartending job, went back to school like that, and immediately started freelancing. It was great. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I thought it was, a good movie that way. I have the same feeling. By the time that movie came out, right, I was
Yeah.
already like a big guy in a big agency. So I had the same feeling that one of my best friends had. He was a nautical engineer, and every time he saw a movie with a ship, with a big ship, he
Yeah.
could only find the flaws. He
Yeah.
could only say like, "Oh my God, that thing would never be there." So, but it's absolutely great, and you're very right about the early jobs. I have only worked in advertising and photography. Period. That's
Mm.
it. But one of my really best friends, he died of cancer in 2003.
Oh, sorry
David,
to hear that.
his big thing was he was a waiter when he was studying in London, and he said, it allows you to two things. First, you get to see what people really want, And then second, you learn to take direction,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you're not going to go to somebody and say you need to order the steak.
Yeah,
Somebody will tell you, I want the steak and this is the way I want it. So, and you're very right on that. So you've been in advertising, and well, now forever. I mean, like the advertising agency experience for 25 years, Common Giant. I mean, like if there's an industry that has changed, I think it is ours. All of this
yeah,
advertising,
totally.
marketing, and communications is like the canary in the mine. We experience change quickly, and we experience change first. We see it, but there's always things that just catch us by surprise. I mean,
Sure.
you know the thing is happening, and you're looking at it and you're saying, damn, like what is happening here? So what have you experienced,
Hmm.
in the flesh, so to speak, about those changes?
Yeah, we talk so much about AI now, and the agency, the way agency has been structured has been crumbling around us for the last, well, for years, but especially the last month or so, right? But well before that, there was TikTok, and then there was Instagram, and then there was, all this stuff about VR and the cyberspace, all the things that are supposed to change our industry. But I remember being a trained art director and working on some really cool stuff and hearing about Fiverr for the first time, right? Or what's the other one? Upwork, right?
Of course, yeah.
And then when I went to check into it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not just designers or developers. It's SEO. It's people doing research. There's all kinds of things, copywriters, and recognizing, holy smokes, not only is this cheap as hell, in many cases, there's really talented people on the other side of the map who have a lot of experience and actually do really good work. They just don't live in the same ecosystem I do. And I didn't look at it as an opportunity as an entrepreneur to like, oh, I'll just outsource everything, or I'll hire people, across seas. Although we've had employees in the Philippines, um, to me, I looked at it and went, wow, this is really going to change shit 5 years from now. And so my whole thing was, what do we need to do so that we don't get disrupted by someone who's just as good as us, who can do it for a 100th of our price, when they find them. So, and again, I'm giving credit to the talent and the experience some of these folks have on the other side of the planet. For me, it was more, how do we add more layers of expertise, training, experience, and value on our side so that we're not disrupted by just a price tag.
And by the way, you mentioned your last word was the one that I was thinking the moment you started talking about it, which is value.
Yes.
If all you want is a transactional thing, hey, build me a logo.
Yes.
It could be that, absolutely, you have to compete in price. If you
Mm-hmm.
want, but if you want the next step, hey, build me a logo that encapsulates what I think I am as a company, that adds value to my customer's life. That's a complete different thing.
That's right.
And listening to a client, or even better in my case, because I'm at heart, I love research, you know
Oh, okay.
talking to like 1,000 people as to what does your company mean to you,
Yeah.
and then encapsulating that. That is where I think agencies add value, at least to
Mm-hmm.
that part. Some of the other parts of what they do, I think it's hard for an agency to compete on value, like pure SEO. I don't know. And today, ACO is driven by AI 100%.
That's right.
But I had never heard of somebody thinking Fiverr was one of those disruptors. And yet, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
It disrupted a lot of things. And I've even got one or two professional friends who offer consulting services at a high level on the Fiverr platform. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's become a nice platform for a lot of people. That's right. Yeah.
yeah. So now you have the oh no second, like, oh no, these people are disrupting.
Yeah.
So, what did you do? How do you counter that?
um, I think for me, especially, so much of what we do in the creative side of this industry is subjective. Right? It's subjective to taste or influence or culture or art or background, where I'm from, right? And so I've spent a lot of my career trying to find objectivity in what we do. And you mentioned a second ago, talking to customers, talking to employees,
Yep.
trying to peel back the wallpaper to find out what's actually underneath, um, so that we can have more objectivity to make our recommendations and provide our work. And so there's a reason we did this. It isn't because we like purple or because or because we think 30-second brand films are the way to go. Like, there's a reason we're doing these things. And so when you and I connected, it was like I was taking a deeper dive into marketing training. So I think I'd taken a couple of Mark Ritzen's courses, and which really, first of all, some of it has taught me we've been doing some of these things. We just, two things, didn't know what to call it because we didn't have proper training. Secondly, we weren't charging enough for it. We just recognized it as something that needed to be done to be objective in the work we were doing. And so I think seeking the right type of mentor and training, and I don't mean a $17 course from Instagram. I mean finding someone who's actually been around the block and has something to teach about our industry that's not really going to change because humans don't actually change. The technology is going to change. So I think that's kind of a loop-de-loop answer to you, but I think it's seeking more information and learning to be more objective in a world that wants to go fast and change and throw subjectivity at you.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned something hit me today. Actually, like we're talking about 2 hours ago. We have been doing things, right? And but we never named them. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
somebody names the thing and tries to own it. So today I saw an article. I got a little newsletter from the Harvard Business Review, and there
Okay.
was an article from somebody saying strategy doesn't have to be about everything, or strategy can't be about everything. And many years ago, I consolidated. I spent 8 years on the creative side, like 30 on the media side, managing all of that, and I consolidated the entire thing into strategic planning, which I find is also misnomer in many cases. Strategic planning to me is just how do I choose one, the goal or the objective that has the most profit and the least risk, and what
Mm.
do I need to do to get there? And to
I
me,
like that.
yeah, other people have other things, like it is building a future competitive advantage, whatever. But I always see it as I need one thing that gives me the most profit with the least risk, and the strategy is how do I get it.
Mhm.
And today that was that in the Harvard Business Review. So I sent it to one of the companies that I advise. Say, hey,
Yeah.
Michael, I've always said this, but like here, the Harvard Business Review says it too. So, we need a strategy for your company that basically focuses on one or two goals that you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that's it. Let's not
Nice.
overdo it. So I love it that you went, on the creative slash objective path, because ultimately, yes, it is the customer who pays, and the customer makes the decision, and you need to understand it.
That's right. That's right. I'll go. Let me go back. I'm going to tie this back. I know we try to keep our time down on the podcast, but
No way.
this is so. If anyone follows me or connects with me, please connect on LinkedIn. I like to tell stories outside of advertising marketing to teach lessons about advertising, brand, and marketing. Right. And so I'll tie it back to earlier. I was talking about being in home improvement. So it was at Lowe's Home Improvement Centers. I outmanaged 4 different stores. When I left that industry, I was an assistant store manager at a $52 million a year store. If it came in the front of the store, went out the back of the store, it was my department. Right. So we had the wife of the company's COO who lived rather close. And she liked to drive by the stores and come home and tell her husband what she saw. And it reached a point where the stores would start ordering whatever red flowers are in season just to line the front of the stores because they like to see red at the front of the stores for Lowe's Red, right? Even if it was out of season, it reached a point where they were getting their hand slapped so much through the pecking order, which came from Mr. Stone's wife, that they were making bad decisions. And so the reason I say that is, Yeah, sure. I know that she liked to see the red in front of the store, but what we really needed was mums because that's what the customers wanted and that's what was going to sell. And if I didn't have enough mums out of front of the store, the same people who drove by, besides his wife, were also customers. They would keep going to Home Depot, who had mums out front. They would buy their mums at Home Depot instead of Lowe's. So I understand personal taste a lot of times is influential in our decisions, but when you can hold it up and say, I sold 2,000 mums last week,
Yeah,
that's why there's no red in front of the store. It changes the conversation a little bit.
but it does, and it changes it in a very positive way, which is
Mm-hmm.
ultimately it's a customer. But
That's right.
and you know, my dad was like that. My dad would say, I swear, oh yeah, well, direct mail doesn't work because I never open it. Okay, so you're one. But we mail like like a million pieces.
Yeah.
If we get a 2% of people actually buying something, shit,
Mm-hmm.
we made all of the money back. So the fact
Yeah,
that you yourself don't open it, nobody cares. It's like
exactly.
me. I haven't watched commercial television, honestly, in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. Yet, commercial television exists. It is a $40 billion business, and it doesn't really care that I watch or don't watch. I am nobody. I am one of 10 million people who watch, like the Oscars or something.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's you have the correct focus, which is I need to sell 2,000 of these things. Unless that woman is going to buy the 2,000, I need to sell it 2,000
Yeah,
to
that's right.
2,000
That's
people.
right.
So that's great. And then, well, one of the things that, and I always ask of people, and
Mm-hmm.
we get also, we were going through some of the answers. I've gotten some of the funniest answers, some of the most intelligent. We've gotten every kind of answer. Um, but it is a real problem. I mean, you still have black hair. If I stand in front of a CEO and I say I know about technology,
Yeah,
they're gonna laugh or something. I mean, it doesn't sound credible for somebody my age. So ageism is still a problem, and that's why we
absolutely.
exist. But if you were consulting with a CEO who's gonna hire for, like an advanced position, a CMO, something like that, what would you say about older workers, older professionals? What is our big advantage?
You know, this is a little partial because of the way I like to have conversations and tell stories and metaphors and parables and things. But I think bringing someone in who can teach you something outside your industry is really important. But relate it back to your business, because there's so many times that we get so focused on what's dead in front of us, and our experiences we've had with that situation. Um, that CEO needs that experience to be in that position, right? They need to know that industry or know how to lead the troops in that industry, that kind of thing. But when they can bring someone in to teach them something they don't know, and I don't mean about TikTok or Meta ads. You can get that on Fiverr. No, I mean someone who can come in and actually teach them something that they may otherwise learn the hard way, or may affect them and they don't even know it. So David C. Baker has a lovely phrase, and I don't know if he wrote it himself or if he heard it somewhere else, but it's hard to read your label from inside the jar.
Oh yeah,
Just
very.
love that. That just speaks so much to me. And then when you can have that outside consultant come in and recognize things that are going to affect you, although they're not present yet, it just takes experience to do that. And it takes different life experiences and business experiences to recognize the financial or business impact or cultural impact of those things as well. And I'm going to cheat and give you a second answer. And this comes from my time on social media, reading about politics and world leaders and raising teenagers. They, I think, the leaders really need to find people who would tell them no instead of just surrounding people with people who would say yes.
But let me push back
And
on that. Where does age come in? Because when I was 22, I was
you
famous
said
for
no.
saying no, and for
Well, I
saying
think you
no
have
in
to.
very strong ways. Like no.
Yeah. I think it's no because that's where wisdom comes in. Let me explain why this is going to affect us negatively, or this is why it's going to impact us. And I'd like to give a shout out to my wife. She doesn't say no, but what she does do is come in and say, here's our blind spot, or here's what we're missing. And, she brings her wisdom that's different than mine to her business. She's also my business partner, by the way. She brings her own, brand of wisdom and experiences to the table that helps us and vastly helps our customers. But many times, when we say, again, it's not no, it's not that word, right? But it's a recommendation against something or trying to steer the ship in a different way. I'd say more times than not, when that advice isn't taken, it has negative repercussions later on. And I think it's just important for leaders to hear something other than what they want to hear.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Totally. I've had an entire career doing that. Good clients. I have been blessed, however, by really good clients.
Awesome.
So that. So anyway, Philip, I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to connect. We will keep connecting, and we will. And someday, who knows, if I'm in the middle of North Carolina or something.
It's easier for me to come to Miami, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, especially in the winter. So if you do come to Miami, we're definitely gonna go to Graciano's, have some coffee, Argentine pastries, and then
Yeah.
great place. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And then, well, we'll keep on arguing over LinkedIn and riling people up.
It's good to see you, Marcelo. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you too. Bye bye.
Cheers.